and welcome to another cup of tea with Steven. Well, I don't know, but my weekend was spent watching Heartstoppers. My God, what a brilliant series on Netflix. It's the first time I've seen something that captures what it's like for kids at school to come out. Uh, Romance we had, and not only that, but also looked at what happens to so many of us, bullying at school. But it's not just LGBTQ kids that get bullied. It's anyone that seems to be a bit different, people are afraid of. At Out News Global, we're constantly fighting to stop bullying. And my guest today, well, he's the ambassador for Anna Kennedy Online, an autism charity. He's also involved with Born Anxious. I'll get to tell you a little bit about this. And of course, Harvey's Law, which stamps out bullying online, which is just appalling. I mean, you just can't believe it sometimes. So I'd like to introduce you to someone that his story is going to blow you away, Mr. Ben Pearson. Welcome, Ben.
Hi, Stephen. Thanks very much for the big up. Really appreciate it.
Excited to have you on. I've got to get started with this. Heartstoppers has been an incredible series. It's been exciting that we've actually got something like this on TV that's talking about, because a few years back you couldn't talk about bullying, you couldn't talk about LGBTQ without it, going on way past the hours. This is something hitting kids, etc. I want people to know a little bit about you, though. You'd be surprised meeting you that you were ever bullied, but you were, weren't you?
Certainly was. Yeah, I had many years of bullying and abuse. So just to summarize, give you a bit of a brief introduction. So when I was 7, I was diagnosed with autism, ADHD, and found it very, very difficult to communicate with people. And then my mother was a school teacher, and she taught mainstream school kids, infant school kids, but she could never understand me. And that was because she never had an education to deal with people on the spectrum. Why would she? She just used to teach average sort of individuals. So she when I got to about 10, she had a real nervous breakdown, and she had difficulties in her own life with partners and one thing or another, and she basically did something that was against the law to a young person, and then the social services took me away. For my own safety. People were reporting the house was very abusive, so they took me into care. And I spent the rest of my life up to the age of 17 in care, experienced a lot of abuse, was sectioned with the wrong people, with people that were mentally ill. And, they believed in ghosts, vampires, and they didn't believe I was a human being. So I'm trying to just portray this picture of the sort of individuals I was with, and how they were just completely insane. So I was bullied because these people had no recognition of my size, my strength, my characteristics. They just would not think twice about pulling out a meat cleaver and going for my neck.
My God, that's
because they were in a film, in a movie. So I was just another person. And in these movies, these people are locked behind a door watching movies, and they just feel it's real life.
And Ben, it must have been absolutely terrifying.
Certainly was. When I when I had my wits about me, I could think clearly, but I just couldn't express my feelings.
And you have to ask there. Obviously, there's huge mistakes. As you said yourself, your mother was a mainstream teacher.
Yeah.
I go into schools and talk about, I work with diversity role models, and I talk about LGBTQ and try and educate it, etc. But how did you overcome this situation? It must have been traumatic for you.
It certainly was. So for 7 years, within 7 years, I was passed around 50 different placements. So I was in from secure young offenders institutes to foster homes to autistic residential units. And I just basically had to rebel against the system. So the system was very much red tape, and I could never seem to do right for doing wrong. And the issue that when I started to become more mature, started to see the world as being more commercial, when I got to about 15, it
Yeah.
just clicked. I was like, wow, I know what these guys are doing. These guys are making a commercial gain, and they're making my record as bad as they can be, and they're tormenting me. So my record gets worse and worse and worse. So these residential care homes get paid more. They get paid thousands a week from a government.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
worse the individual is, the more high risk that individual is, the more they get paid. So I started to become wise to this.
We've had Chris Wilde on, who I know from a friend of
I
mine.
love Chris.
He's
Yeah.
a big supporter of News Global, and he's written a couple of books. And when I first met Chris, I was a little boxer, and I was horrified to hear the stories that he went through of abuse that went
Yeah.
on of not just girls, boys in these care homes were being passed around like meat.
Yeah, so without being too graphic, it was a weekly occurrence that a carer, because you've got to remember that these carers, yes, they're passionate about their job, but they've probably had a colourful upbringing. They've probably been abused themselves by their parents. That was quite a common one. So when they were in these care homes, I used to see young kids, maybe 12 years old, getting pinned by a 30-year-old so-called carer. It's quite ironic, the word carer, but, getting pinned against a wall, bent over, and sexually abused. I used to see this every week.
And I know Chris said the only reason he thinks he wasn't abused was that he was a little, but the boy next to him in the bed used to be picked up every other night, taken
Yeah,
away.
I wasn't abused so often. I remember when 6 of them restrained me, and they sexually abused me while I was being restrained, and my legs were in cuffs, and they simply couldn't do anything. I had two 18-stone guys on my arms, and at that time, in a big hallway, and I was the problem with these residential care homes. It's a bit like Broadmoor or somewhere. They're completely confined, so that you can only get in if you have, the lock and key. So these so-called responsible carers, which is far from the truth, they have a monopoly, basically. And it becomes very corrupt. So there's 30 carers on site on one shift. It's very corrupt. And basically what they do is they will sieve out anyone that's not part of their gang, and then they will start to basically take out a lot of their stresses and strains from home life on the kids when they're at work.
Yeah. Oh my God, this is awful. I mean, Ben, I've got to ask you here, how do we start to stop this?
How do we start to stop this?
Yeah, I mean, now people are actually talking about
Yeah,
it.
it needs regulating. We must bring in regulations, where these places are vetted.
Yeah.
These people are savvy. I remember a lady called Lorraine, and she was very commercially astute. Now she could write and basically sell ice to Eskimos,
Yeah.
and this is the thing, and she was at the top,
Yeah.
and basically just had minions around her, just doing the dirty work.
Yeah.
But she could basically get all these care homes accredited when they certainly weren't. They were.
Yeah.
There needs to be more vetting in place, more assessments, more unannounced visits. Because when you used to have an assessment, it's a bit like at school when Ofsted used to come in. Now, I used to see this because my mum was a school teacher. It's like Ofsted come in once a year. Right, everywhere looks completely different. Yeah, everywhere's clean, everywhere's tidy. But if you actually come in unannounced, you'll see a very different picture.
Yeah.
And this is the thing with these care homes. You need to just come unannounced, like the police. They wouldn't tell you, I'm going to come and arrest you at 6 o'clock, because you wouldn't be in. They would just turn up and knock your door down, which I've had many, many times. So yeah, I think we need to live in a real world rather than just this fixed commercial world.
Yeah, no, as I say, we're all talking about the series Heartstoppers because it's quite revolutionary to have something like that on mainstream television, talking about bullying and kids coming out and everything. Bullying is going on right now in schools. We know it's going on right
Yeah,
now. How do you
100%.
think we can actually make a difference? I mean, your own bullying obviously started at school, which again would obviously lead to trauma, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So there needs to be a more tiered hierarchy. So there needs to be more levels in schools, more investment in schools, more key workers, certainly. So people that are a little bit different, they
Yeah,
need more support. And what we need to be doing is finding the good in those people
yeah,
and helping them interact with other people. So other people not just picking on their sore spots, they're actually going, this guy's something that we can be proud of.
yeah,
So it's trying to, if you're trying to bring in somebody that's different to the class, you have to slowly integrate them. You can't just
yeah.
stick a bath bomb in a water and not expect it to explode. You've got to slowly let it go in.
Yeah, and also I think, going into schools and talking about autism, talking about
Sure.
LGBTQ, talking about things that people don't understand. That I mean, think
Yep.
about it, when you go to school the first day, draw a picture of your mummy. Not everyone has a mummy. Some
I
people
know. I
have
know.
daddies or
Yeah. Yeah, people are just not sensitive enough to these sorts of things. I used to always found it. I have to admit, on Mother's Day and stuff, when everyone's celebrating their mum and I could never see my mum,
yeah.
it used to, it was just adding salt into the wound. People need to have more empathy.
Yeah, we're talking a lot about toxic masculinity, where kids and boys, boys, sorry, boys are forced into this. You will play football. You will, wait, put
Yeah.
that ball down, dear God. And I mean, it's something. I mean, do you feel that you were forced into an avenue as a kid, as a man?
Yeah, 100%. So I used to like playing hockey, basketball, this sort of stuff. But that was always seen as like a girls' sport
Yeah,
years ago. And I really think that, that there should be, people should be more equal. If men want to put makeup on, why can't they put makeup on? I honestly don't feel why we can't all be self-confident and just live and let live.
yeah, absolutely. This is the thing, is they say when a boy does put makeup on. I mean, we live in a world, I always think, curious that you give a kid a gun at 2, 3 years old to shoot someone. But, if he dares kiss someone of the same sex, or even an affection, it's like a huge no-no. So there's something so wrong about that,
I
Ben.
know. I think as long as you're not hurting anyone else and you're respecting other people's views, then what is the problem?
Yeah, absolutely. We have to go back again to your mental health.
Sure.
Your mother didn't understand your section. So, what help, actual positive help, were you given?
I wasn't given any positive help up until the age of 17 when I made such a commotion. Well, they actually tried to section me, so I was put into hospital for
Yeah,
4 to 6 weeks on a unit where this school I wanted to utilize my right as a care leaver, because when you get 17,
yeah,
unless there's any other conditions as to why an individual can't leave, they should be able to leave the social care system. So they came up with this clever idea. So they thought that if they said, this guy, look, this is his report, he's so bad that he would be a danger to the public, a danger to himself, this guy needs sectioning. So I said, go on then, section me, right? So to section someone, it's not an easy process. It's like getting power of attorney over someone, especially if they object. It's not easy. So what I did is I said, go on, section me. So I went through this assessment, and I thought, I'm not going to be able to do this on my own. I'm seriously not going to be able to do this on my own because I'm not that academic. I haven't really had an education, but what I can do is, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So I started getting good people around me, local MPs. I started going down to the gym, finding people that are powerful within the community. And I had so many people behind me that started to build up a backing that they basically just bowed down and said, look, we surrender.
yeah. I mean, they're not everyone's strong enough to do that,
But
are
but no, they're not. And I think, looking at what I've seen, like I was in a care home in Peterborough, right? And a friend of mine, well, I say friend, that's far from the truth, actually. Wrong terminology there. He was a young person that was residing in the care home I was in Peterborough, and he used to take a lot of cocaine. And one night, he needed to feed that habit, so he went round the corner and robbed a butcher's shop,
they?
right? And while he robbed this butcher's shop, basically had a guy up against the wall with a knife. This guy came a few days later with a gun, and Andy, who I was living with, basically told this guy it was me that robbed the butcher shop, and he shot a bullet with a shotgun through my bedroom window one night at 2 in the morning. And I had to continue living there. Now, one of the carers, which is quite ironic, was a police officer, right? And he was also a carer as well for this care home.
Yeah.
Now, I was so concerned because this guy, Andy, who was living with me from Milton Keynes, was part of a gang. So I was between a rock and a hard place. Around the corner, these mad butchers with meat cleavers, and this Andy guy who's part of a criminal gang. I didn't know which one to side with. So I just went quiet, and then, got so bullied.
That's the problem. You go quiet with things like that rather than having a voice. And putting kids in a situation. How old were you when that happened?
About 14, I think. But
40, he's high on cocaine, living in a
yeah, so this is the thing. I was forced into a situation where I never felt safe. So what I did is I started becoming a criminal. I started breaking, smashing cars, nicking sat navs just to get arrested. I'd do anything to get arrested because I felt safer within 4 walls in a cell than I did in any of these care homes. But what I did is, from there, I wanted to get moved placements. And what happens is, if you keep absconding, if you keep going away from the care home, they will say that you're vulnerable and they will move you. So I get wise, savvy to the system.
Yeah.
So what it is I moved in with travelers. Now, travelers, there's this stigma, like bikers and people like this. They get this bad rap about them, even though a lot of people have never met a traveler in their life, right? This traveler site that I approached, I basically went and started talking to a guy about scrap metal and explained the situation. And as long as I did a few bits of work for them, I got to live on this site. Now, these travelers were the nicest people, the salt of the earth, the nicest people I've ever met. So I think we've got to be really careful when we're judgmental and making very broad statements about communities.
Oh, absolutely. No, Daniel Mason, who's been on the show.
Yeah.
Was married to a traveller, and I know. I mean, obviously, Tyson Fury, who's my favourite.
Yeah,
amazing.
100%.
A traveller.
What a fight.
And he's been great because he's done so much for mental health. He got a bad rap because of his comments on LGBTQ, but he's actually come out now and said, sorry, I didn't know, I've learned, which is great again. Travels is something you're right, people, my mama used to say, oh, don't look at the gypsies, they'll put a curse on you.
Well, yeah.
But we'll look at them and if they're that powerful.
Too right.
So you some of the things you're doing, I know you're doing a lot of stuff, but you're an ambassador for Anna Kennedy Online, which I'm a patron of and I've been involved with for 6 years now. How did you become involved with it?
Anna, so I was doing some work for a celebrity, and I was doing some YouTube videos spreading autism awareness generally, and Anna tagged along and saw what I was doing and thought I'd be a great ambassador for her to help with the cause that she's really worthy cause that she's supporting and spreading awareness for, because she's got 2 autistic sons.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, that woman is a force to be reckoned with. I just
100%.
And we've got the Autism Hero Awards coming up in June, which I hope you're going to join us there.
I am, yeah. I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah, I'm very grateful for the invite.
She does such incredible work, and I got involved simply by judging a competition for her, and I picked up the stories, and I burst into tears, and I said to her, "My God, I had no idea that people with autism were so badly bullied." And she said, and then she rang me the next day. She said, "Would you like to be a patron?" I went, "God, you don't have to have all you need is some empathy." And I think people forget you can get involved with any charity if you have empathy. You don't have to have cancer. You don't have to have, you can get involved with it. But you're also involved with a charity called Born Anxious. Can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, so Born Anxious is a clothing range that supports autism by Kelly, and she's got an autistic son, and she works closely with Anna Kennedy, supporting the charity, and I've got a company called Big Clothing for You and Born Anxious, and we both donate some of the proceeds towards the charity Anna Kennedy Online.
That's one of the things that's really interesting me about you. You're an entrepreneur now. How did you get? I mean, you just don't wake up one morning and go, "I think I'll create a clothing line for bigger guys."
No. Well, business and entrepreneurial ship has always been in the blood. From a young age. My granddad was a corn farmer and corn merchant, and all my family, like my dad, my sort of male side, have always been into business. Well, from selling on market stalls to different things, and I've always liked buying and selling.
Right.
So this whole thing about being penalized for being different because I got autism, people didn't understand me, had a bit of a checkered upbringing. And then when I got 17 and going through all that pain, and agony of trying to get out of this system, I put on a lot of weight. I added about 10 stone. From getting depressed and basically just wanting to stuff my face for comfort.
Yeah.
So, sort of coupled with adding on weight, I struggled to find clothing. So going to the high street, and I just felt like, stuck out like a sore thumb going to a shop. 30 stone guy. I can't find anything in here. This is like the biggest thing on the shelf is like a large XL. I'm thinking, am I the only one? Nah, there's no way. There's millions of people out there in the same boat. And I thought, well, I know America is a little bit more advanced. America has these sizes, but what's
Yeah.
the UK got to offer? Going back to like 2014, there was very little around.
Yeah.
And anything that was around was like geared, with all due respect, for like, a little bit old fuddy-duddy 60, 70-year-olds, not something that a 20-year-old would want to wear. And I thought, why can't I wear the same as what that guy's wearing? It's a 30-inch waist. Well, you can, it's only fabric. It just hasn't been done. So that's what we did. We wanted to change the times and start where the high street stops.
So it's really good. The gay community have got consider fighting not to be labelled. They have things like bears, XXL guys, otters, etc. Have you thought? I noticed that have you thought of gearing some of it over to the gay community?
Yeah, 100%. Some of my best friends are gay, and James, a guy that started to spread the word about big clothing back in the day, he's gay and big, and he is very proud of being gay, and he helped spread the awareness on some of these communities.
Yeah, because they have a club called XXL for bigger guys, but they actually sell, because I've been, they actually
Go on, spill the beans.
you can buy sweets as you enter the place, which always makes me laugh. You're also involved with Harvey's Law, which is really important. I think. Do you think Harvey should get an MBE? I think
I
he
do.
should.
Yeah, 100%. The man is just incredible. All the setbacks that he's had, all the difficulties, and he never lets it, put him down. He's just an incredible young man.
What a sense of humor.
Oh, yeah, I've never met anyone quite like it.
He's just really funny.
He is. He's hilarious.
No, it'd be nice to see. I'd like. I know Anna's up for a damehood. Yes, please let her get it. But I think Harvey should get an MBE for what he's done, because online trolls are such cowards. They're even worse than because they're hiding behind the screen.
Yeah. Like I'm used to the old school. If you have a problem with someone, not saying this is the correct way to deal with it, but certainly, in a care home, man to man, you'd have a punch up and shake your hands and walk away. That's the old school. Sort yourself out. Now we're online. And when you start targeting someone that's vulnerable and can't defend themselves, that's just completely insane. These people are mentally ill that are doing this.
Yeah. I mean, the problem is with that statement is that you've got things like Will Smith walking up and slapping. I've forgotten his name now. Not Chris Rock, at the Oscars, and the whole world sees that. I mean, the problem is any kind of violence is you're not teaching anybody anything good. There's other ways of dealing with it.
I think it's about trying to keep things in context. Like Jeremy Clarkson got a bit of a dig in a few months ago about something, and I think it's about just trying to keep perspective. Is this just a commercial sort of act? You know, is this a false mock-up, or is this actually somebody, is this done in jest basically, or is this someone just, you know, actually assaulting someone?
Well, I think the thing is also that viewing figures. The more sensational it is, the more possibilities of having the ratings go up.
Sure,
If you say
sure.
something outrageous, that's why sometimes they say, "Oh, for goodness' sake, is this a statement they've made?" And you know, it's to get a reaction. I mean, people go on with Piers Morgan. I think he's brilliant. My best friend cannot stand him, and I think he's a very clever man because he gets a reaction out of people. But physical violence is, you know, I just never. But look, sorry, let's go back to a couple of other things here. Was kind of important. A number of people I've met that have been in your position that have trauma from what they've gone through. Um, do you still have trauma now? How do you live with what's happened to you?
I have trigger points. And I think because I've had many years of counseling with specialist professionals, um, I, in the last in the last year, I've not had anything that has really caught me by surprise.
Yeah,
I can feel it coming on.
yeah,
So if I'm around my mum, for example, for too long, she's very emotional. She,
yeah,
you know, you hug her and she starts crying, and I've just got to be aware that I mirror people. So, you know, this one of my traits is I mirror people. So I've got to make sure I'm surrounded with people that inspire me and not depress me, because I will end up feeling depressed. So as long as I know how my system works and I can work with it.
yeah. Yeah, you're so right there. I think a lot of people mirror what's around them, and that's why when you do have trauma as a child, it carries on through there. And as I say, but how do you know do you remove yourself from the situation? You know, if you do something unexpected comes along, well, what
No,
do you do?
100%. I would never remove myself unless I felt that I was going to put someone else in danger.
Yeah,
So if I felt an autistic rage was coming on, then I might have to be a little bit careful, because very, very seldom now, but you know, I might just see red and lose it, just start smashing everything up, you know, because my head just explodes. But um, unless something like that was coming on where I felt I needed to extract myself, then no, I would face up to it and I'd work through it. And I don't think from experience, I don't think brushing things under the carpet is ever the way, because they'll just come back, and they'll come back stronger, bigger, and bolder at a later date. So I think it's about hitting it face on, or even writing it down and going, well, actually, I'm feeling a little bit emotional. This is how I see it now. And then as the days go on, just read it back to yourself. This
yeah.
person's an idiot. And then 2 days later, you think, oh, well, actually, I can understand why I put that now. Actually, they're not. That was just how I was feeling at the time. So yeah, I will always try and work with it.
You know, so many people we've had on here who, you know, some big celebrities, etc., that live with the trauma, also talk about addiction.
Sure.
And drug addiction is very, you know, drugs are very easy to get hold of in this day and age. How much did you know, you talk with your friend doing cocaine at 14? How much did trauma lead into addiction for you?
So I wanted to take myself away from reality. So like, because I was scared, although I may have portrayed this big bad appearance at the time, that was more the fear inside me trying to cover it up. But at the end of the day, every day I had suicidal thoughts. Once a week, I'd try and take my life. And uh, the drugs were a great way of, especially when you know you're getting abused and very unsure about your surroundings and not being able to deal with your emotions. Drugs were a great way, especially cannabis, you know,
Yeah,
was a great way to calm me down. But the problem with cannabis is that you get the side effects, and this is always the problem with all these drugs, you know, like cocaine, the big come downs, cannabis, the paranoia, you know, and you've got to be really careful. This stuff in I don't condone any of it actually, but this stuff in moderation, uh, you know, may serve a purpose, but anything in extreme generally has a negative consequence.
yeah, I know. But how did you? I mean, how did you stop?
I never liked it in the first place. So this was just, I never liked drinking either. So now I don't drink. You know, I don't like the sense of being out of control. But at
Oh,
the time, I felt I needed to be out of control because I didn't like I was so scared of the position I was in.
yeah, yeah. Oh,
I didn't want to face reality. Now I love facing reality.
so you just stopped cold turkey?
Yeah, I just stopped, like smoking. I used to smoke 40 fags a day. Never really enjoyed smoking. I just stopped, and everyone's like, "How do you do that?" I'm on these nicotine patches, but then I do have, I think I've been brought up this way. I do have a very strong, especially the autism and getting obsessed. I can just cut. I have a switch. I have a switch when I've got it in my mind. I'm doing something. Boy, I'm doing it. Anyone will find it very hard to stop me.
One of the other things is I'm going to ask you here is obviously one of the things you channeled your energies into was working out.
Sure.
I know you've got a big top, but you're a huge guy. I always worry with the gym because I go
Yeah.
myself all the time, and I worry, when does it go from sensible to, I'm not competing for a bodybuilding competition, but however, my whole life's revolved around this now.
Sure. So I've always tried to keep a balance, but I think I've failed more times than I've succeeded. So, steroids are probably the best supplement, the best supplement that you can get, but they have very negative side effects. Especially with people that do suffer with, mental health, and, when you start putting these chemicals in your body, you can get, more aggressive, testosterone can get higher, you start reacting. The amount of friends that I've been in the gym with and go, "Oh, I've fallen out with my missus." Well, have you had I've not had a row for the last couple of years, but I start taking this drug, and next thing, I'm snapping, I'm reacting to stuff. Well, you will do. And, some of the thing is, I think it's, some of the big athletes out there are really trying to spread awareness. If you're going to take steroids, if you're going to take performance enhancing drugs to get to where you want to be, because the sport is so competitive now, if you want to get up there and be competitive, you've got to take these drugs. A lot of these runners and things, and people that are saying, "Oh yeah, I test negative." Well, no. Well, you may test negative at the time, but that's not to say you haven't taken drugs in the past.
I think, sorry, we need to cut.
Sure.
We're talking about testosterone here, which
Yeah.
is prescribed by doctors as well. But I mean, they're taking a large amounts of it, rather than perhaps someone with low testosterone would take one a month. Some of the bodybuilders are taking it, sometimes three times a week, aren't they?
Yeah, I think it's about trying. So I had a conversation with a good friend of mine, because I've got very addictive personality, and I was, 6 months ago, I was taking some very high dosages of steroids, and a friend of mine approached me and said, "Look, Ben, some of the best athletes on stage today are taking less than you're taking.
Yeah.
What you're trying to do is get a quick win. You're trying to get to where you want to be quickly, and that's just going to destroy you. You're on a one-way path here to the graveyard." And I think it's about trying to, if you're going to do it very slowly and controlled over a long period of time. Don't go up and come crashing down.
Yeah, because many of the guys in the gym I notice arrive and they seem to get huge in a month, and you think, my goodness. And you notice not only have they got spots all over their back, but they've got tiny little chicken legs.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but listen, if you got to be mayor of London, what one thing would you change about London?
The congestion charges. But I'm probably very, very biased. Very selfish, very biased.
You don't live in London, you live outside London,
I
do
do. And it's a right pig, when you come into London, and it's like trying to make things more clear, it's a bit like this lockdown. Stay in, but you can go out, all these, when COVID first hit, no one knew what they were doing. And I feel like that when I come to London, which area is good, which isn't, and it's a bit of a nightmare.
I know you have a lovely wife. What's the most romantic thing you've ever done for her?
Well, I didn't think it was romantic at the time. I thought it was a bit of a bombshell, but sometimes you can't predict these things. So my wife is not materialistic at all, and I bought this number plate called "Due for Ben."
Yeah.
because she's always been for me, you know, even from when I was homeless,
Yeah.
and we were on a dog walk. I met her when I was homeless and I rented a room from her, and she's always supported me, so she's always been for me.
Yeah.
So due for Ben, I got this registration plate, and I thought, yeah, she's not going to like this private number plate. She doesn't like, she's sort of middle class, she doesn't want to be standing out and all this type of
Yeah.
stuff. And I got this big number plate, and yeah, she thought it was a really sweet gesture. So I think that's probably the most romantic thing unknowingly I've done.
All right. What else have you got coming up for the year?
In terms of
Business and things you're going to be at.
Yeah, sure. So the business is going from strength to strength, and we've got more photo shoots coming up with some famous people to really to promote the Harvey's Law as well, because
Yeah.
that's my main passion. You know, is really trying to spread awareness about this online trolling, malicious communications act. You know, it really needs revamping. So a lot of my time and efforts will be going around trying to increase the awareness.
It's so difficult to find them. That's the problem.
Yeah.
I know one of my friends, I won't name her, really badly trolled a celebrity, and her husband was so irate with things that he said. He actually tracked and managed. He devoted weeks to tracking this person down. It turned out to be some really sad soul up in Edinburgh, but it took forever to find them, and they actually felt sorry for them in the end, because it was obviously someone with mental health issues.
Yeah, the problem is it's the actual act that needs revamping, because you know, I've seen some court cases, people going to court and people just walking away scot-free, you know, because the judges can only work with the legislation, you know, the law that they've got in front of them.
Yeah.
It's not really it's the system that needs to be revamped.
All needs to be revamped. You only have to look at the Daily Mail online and not look at the articles, but occasionally it says comments underneath it. And these aren't comments. They're not,
Sure.
Oh, these are just hateful.
Yeah.
You know, slag, name calling. I mean, it's a bit like the old days when you used to throw things at the theatre. But if our national newspapers allowing people to put comment, and I say, fine, put a constructive comment or an empathy or something sympathetic, but you know, she's an old slag, look at the state of her, you know, she's got a bucket down there. There's some of the nicer ones I've read. You know, that's look, Ben, thank you ever so much for joining us. I'll put the clothing line underneath, and we hope to have you on again. Thank you ever so much.
Spot on. Thanks, Stephen. It's a pleasure.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen.